Hey, it's Mr. Wilson. We're going to talk about how to add a green screen object and add movement to it. Easiest thing is just to have it appear like this, and then just have some movement like this. So we don't have to actually have any tracking movement. So I can just like have a movement, boom, like that. But if you have something that has to track with your hand, it's a little bit harder, like this. Right? That's difficult. Another thing that might be difficult is if you want to have a curve in your movement like this. That's also a little bit difficult, but I'll show you how to do all those things if you need to. So let's take a look. So the first thing you're going to do is actually get your image, and the best thing to do would just be to Google green screen and then whatever your image is going to be. So I obviously chose a ball, so I chose this one. If I click on that, and then I can just take this image here and drag it to the desktop, and it'll save to my desktop. So if I minimize this, go over here, there's my image, and then I could just click and drag it over to my event and drop it right in there. An easy way to add things to the event. And if I go down to the bottom of this, there is my ball in the event, and so that's how I added it. Now I'm going to add it to my video. Here's the video that I recorded of me talking in front of the computer, and all I need to do is take this ball and put it here. Now the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is the easy thing is just to have that thing appear without any movement. And really, I want you to learn how to do movement, but an easy way to do it is keeping your movements simple. And unless you have like a very complex movement of your object, it shouldn't be too hard. So I go bang, and that ball appears. Snapping is on, so I'm just going to have it snap right there. Now of course, all I'm going to be able to see is this ball. I need to put my keyer on there so that it's transparent. So this is how I do it. I select my clip and I go over to effects. This is the effects button here. Once I click it, it'll give me a whole bunch of different options, but I'm going to look for keying because it's a chroma key effect. I click on keyer, I drag it over top of this, and boom, there it is now transparent. Now one thing I also noticed, it has a little watermark down here that I want to get rid of. So the first thing I'm going to do for this is crop it. You're not going to need to do that. Remember, sometimes it's hard to grab these handles, these blue handles. So if you just make it a little bit smaller, it's really easy to. So now I'm just going to crop out that watermark, and now it's gone. Good. Done. Now I'm going to have that ball appear, but as we can see, boom, that's not where I want it. Easy fix. Go to transform, again, drag it to where you want it. So that's about where I want it to appear. Maybe make it a little bit smaller. That looks good. So let's see what that looks like. Here, like this. And then just have some movement. So that's an easy way to have something appear. If you just want to have it appear without having it held in your hand, that's probably a better idea than having something held in your hand, because you're really going to have to do a lot of tracking. Now I thought the movement here was going to be really easy, but it's not, because my hand moves faster than the ball. So I'm going to actually have to track it. I'm going to add a keyframe right here. Add a keyframe at the playhead. I add it, and then I'm going to go to where I push the ball and where my hand stops. So I'm just going to go frame by frame, slow motion, and right there is where my hand stops. And so that's where I'm going to place the ball. And I drag the ball over here, and you see that this is showing the trajectory of the movement. But unfortunately, it's not timed right. So if I go back and move the ball, you're going to see my hand moves too fast. Like this, it's not quite right. And just have some movement like this, right? So I'm going to undo all that. Undo. If you ever make a mistake, just Apple Z, undo, right? So instead, I'm going to have it frame by frame, and it shouldn't take me that long because it's not that many frames. So again, I'm going to set my keyframe here. I can also go over here in the inspector window and go to transform and set a keyframe here. Lots of different places where you can do it, but this is easy. I'm just going to set that keyframe and then go forward frame by frame like this. I'm just arrow keying forward. Oh, I don't really want to rotate it. I could if I wanted to, but I'm not going to. So frame forward, and I'm going to follow the ball with my hand, see what my hand is. I'm just going to have that ball right in front of my hand, so it looks like my hand is pushing that ball. And I think that's pretty much where I stop. And if we take a look at that, that should look a lot better. It's going to track a whole lot better. And I'm just going to click done to get that out of the way. And then just have some movement like this. That looks pretty good. Now the next thing I'm going to do, now it's just going to hang there until I knock it out of the frame. So I'm just talking there, and it's just hanging there, and that's fine. So again, if you have something just hanging for a while, that's probably an easy way to do it, because we don't want to constantly be having to track movement. But now, here's a really easy way to have movement. I knock the ball out of frame. So boom. I will arrow key forward until I get right to where my hand would touch that, which is right about there. I'm going to go back here and set a keyframe. If I lose it up here, I'm going to go to transform, set a keyframe again, then arrow key forward, and I'm going to start the movement again. Okay, so that's real easy. It's going to be a real quick just knocking out of the frame. Done. Tracking movement, so I can just like have a movement, boom. Like, okay, so this whole thing looks like this, and then just have some movement like this. So we don't have to actually have any tracking movement. So I can just like have a movement, boom, like that. It's a lot harder when you have something tracking. So I'm just going to grab this again. I'm going to again key over it. Again, crop that watermark out. Another thing you can do to really fine-tune it is zoom in on the image. So I've zoomed in, and here I can drag it to where I want to really see. So this is going to help me keep the placement of the ball in the same area of my hand. So I'm going to be able to really be able to kind of see exactly where I want that ball to be on my hand. So we'll see what that looks like. Right, it looked pretty good. It tracks with my hand, and then as I knock it out, right, it goes out of frame. So then this is much harder. I'm going to put this down again, keyframe it, crop it. So let's take a look how that turned out. Pretty good. It could be better. I could make it a little smoother, but those are the basics. That's how you put in something on green screen and give it movement. Good luck.